The cold-blooded crown, the rise of the reptilian elite, ruled in silence. Now, Truth Echoes, Part 1. The Origins of the Serpent Bloodline. Chapter 1. The First Scales. What ancient mythologies first describe serpent beings in power? The serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field. Genesis 33. There are myths so old that they outlive the civilizations that carried them. Stories whispered in caves, carved into stone, or sung beneath desert moons. Stories of watchers, of serpents, of gods with slit eyes and voices that did not echo like human breath. Before the idea of nations, before pyramids and popes, came the serpent kings. The motif is everywhere, and it is ancient. Far too ancient, some say, to be coincidence. In Sumer, the world's first recorded civilization, the gods were not merely spiritual ideals. They walked among men. The Anunnaki, those who from the heavens came, descended with knowledge, power, and disturbing anatomy. Enki, one of their central figures, was associated with both wisdom and serpents. Not metaphorically, literally. Some cylinder seals depict him with reptilian features. Scaled skin, elongated skull, slit-like eyes, hands that hover just a fraction too far from human. But this isn't just Sumer. In Egypt, the uraeus, the rearing cobra, was worn on the foreheads of pharaohs. Serpent royalty. The emblem was not decorative. It was a divine signal. I carry the blood of the gods. Sobek, the crocodile-headed god, ruled over power, fertility, and the Nile's deadly currents. These were not animals of chaos, but symbols of divine order. In Mesoamerica, the Maya and Aztec worshipped Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Half bird, half snake. He descended from the sky to give wisdom, calendars, science. Then, like so many of these figures, he promised to return. In China, dragons, celestial reptiles, were symbols of imperial authority. Not monstrous, not villainous. Regal. Enlightened. Serpent beings from the stars, tasked with maintaining balance, power, and the divine order. To be born of the dragon was to be of another class altogether. A cosmic royalty. The serpent is not just old. It is universal. How did cultures that supposedly never met, separated by oceans, language, and millennia, produce the same myth? A powerful reptilian being descending from the heavens, seeding civilization, guiding kings, then vanishing behind symbols and secrets. Even in the Judeo-Christian canon, arguably the most human-centric scripture in the world, the serpent appears in the garden not as a devil, but as the only creature able to speak. And not just speak, persuade. This serpent offered knowledge, not damnation. It awakened the minds of Adam and Eve. And what was its punishment? To crawl on its belly, as if it had once stood upright. Perhaps the most terrifying question is not whether the serpent is evil, but whether it was right. Let's go deeper. In India, the Nagas were serpent deities who lived underground or in heavenly realms. They were said to possess advanced technology, sacred wisdom, and guarded treasures far beneath the earth. In Sanskrit, Naga literally means serpent. The Mahabharata describes them as shapeshifters, guardians of ancient secrets. Some were benevolent, others cold and cunning. But the pattern remains: ancient wisdom, underground domains, non-human lineage. In Aboriginal Australian mythology, the rainbow serpent is one of the oldest known deities on Earth, described as a creator god that slithered across the land shaping rivers, mountains, and humans. Again, a scaled god. Again, primordial. And then there's Greece. The oracles of Delphi were said to be under the influence of Pythia, named after Python, the serpent slain by Apollo. The slaying of the dragon or serpent is a recurring theme, always at the foundation of new human empires. What are these stories really describing? Are they primitive people worshipping dangerous animals? Or are they encoding something deeper, something we were told to forget? The serpent as archetype represents hidden knowledge, transformation, regeneration. It sheds its skin. It survives apocalypse. It sees in darkness. It whispers truths when others shout lies. But when paired with divinity, royalty, and power, the message shifts. What if the earliest rulers weren't entirely human? What if the idea of divine right wasn't just metaphor, but lineage? What if ancient people weren't mythologizing snakes, They were recording encounters. Today's scientists would scoff. Myth is not evidence. Correlation is not causation. But myth is memory, encoded in allegory, protected through symbol. And symbols, repeated across continents and eras, are hard to dismiss. Especially when those same symbols appear on the crests of royal families, the seals of central banks, and the architecture of global institutions. Look closely at the logos of some of the world's most powerful organizations. You'll find serpents entwined around swords, wings, globes. You'll find dragons guarding vaults. Twin snakes on the caduceus, which inexplicably became the symbol of Western medicine. Even the World Health Organization's logo contains the staff of Asclepius, a serpent on a rod. These aren't just design choices. They're declarations. A lineage is being referenced. A power source is being honored. Somewhere between the literal and the symbolic lies a truth we've been trained not to see. That cold-bloodedness rules this world, in biology, in leadership, in law. This is not merely about aliens or ancient astronauts. That is a distraction. This is about systems. About who defines what is human, who holds the throne, and who decides what emotions are permitted in leadership. We've been taught that the powerful must be rational, calculating, emotionless. Cold. What if that very trait is not a virtue, but a genetic tell? In every ancient culture, the serpent was there at the start. Not hidden. Crowned. But something changed. The myths turned dark. The dragon was slain. The serpent demonized. The underground ones cast out. Why? Because the bloodline didn't vanish. It went underground, into secret societies, dynastic families, and the boardrooms of a future no longer ruled by kings but by algorithms. And now it may no longer be myth we fear, but memory. In the next chapter, we will descend into the texts of Sumer, the birthplace of recorded human history, and ask what the Anunnaki left behind. The cold-blooded didn't just come to Earth. They stayed. And they bred. The first scales were not just stories. They were warnings. And we weren't meant to remember. Chapter 2. Serpent Gods and Sky Kings. What do Sumerian, Egyptian, and Mesoamerican texts reveal? They descended from the sky in fiery chariots. They ruled with the wisdom of serpents and the hearts of kings. Fragment from a lost Sumerian tablet, translated by Zechariah Sitchin. Disputed but never disproven if Chapter 1 asked you to see the serpents hidden in myth. Chapter 2 asks you to read the tablets where they first spoke. Sumer, Egypt, Mesoamerica. 3 civilizations separated by oceans and time, yet bound by one archetype. The ruling gods who descend from the heavens as serpents or sky kings. Each left records carved into stone, painted on walls, etched into pyramids. Each claimed their knowledge was given, not discovered. And each recorded their benefactors in reptilian terms. This is where the official timeline of human civilization begins to tremble. The Sumerian record in the dusty ruins of Ur, Eridu, and Nippur, archaeologists found thousands of clay tablets written in cuneiform, the world's first known script. Among them, the stories of the Anunnaki, beings whose name translates as those who from the heavens came to Earth. They weren't spirits. They weren't metaphors. They were described as living, ruling, mating, and walking among humanity. The Anunnaki weren't uniformly benevolent. They were powerful, political, and at odds with each other. Enki, their scientist god, is repeatedly linked with serpents, water, and underground domains, an echo of the Nagas of India. His brother Enlil, by contrast, was sky-focused, commanding storms and authority. Both appear in human form on some tablets, but the oldest seals show something stranger. Elongated skulls, scaled headdresses, claw-like appendages disguised as regalia. According to Sumerian lore, humanity itself was a project, an experiment begun when the gods mixed their essence with those of the earth. The hybrid that resulted was obedient but capable of growth. A workforce. A servant race. It's a chilling echo of Genesis's "let us make man in our image but stripped of piety." Here the gods are not omnipotent, they are engineers. Why is Enki's symbol the serpent? Why does the caduceus, symbol of medicine, mimic Enki's double helix staff? These are questions mainstream archaeology refuses to touch. But the parallels are glaring. serpentine imagery linked to genetic knowledge, to healing, to forbidden wisdom. The Egyptian Testament travel west to the Nile, and the story mutates but does not disappear. The pharaohs wore the uraeus, the rearing cobra, on their foreheads, a living symbol of divine authority. They were called sons of Ra, but many also claimed descent from Sobek, the crocodile god, or Atum, whose earliest forms were reptilian. This is not ornamental mythology. It is lineage propaganda. We are of the serpent, the crown declares. We are not as you. The pyramid texts, carved inside tombs thousands of years before the Bible, speak of gods of the underworld and serpents of the horizon, who guard the gates between worlds. The Book of the Dead is filled with depictions of serpentine beings ferrying souls, deciding fates. Some are monstrous, yes, but others are majestic, crowned, radiant. And then there is Apep, or Apophis, the great serpent of chaos who battles Ra each night. Mainstream Egyptology calls this myth an allegory for darkness versus light. But why is the enemy of the sun also a serpent, when the pharaoh's power is derived from a serpent emblem? Could it be a political echo, one faction of reptilian power overthrowing another? Sobek's temples at Crocodilopolis, modern-day Fayum, housed live crocodiles adorned with jewels, worshipped as living gods. Priests fed them delicacies and performed rituals. This is not symbolic. It is direct veneration of cold-blooded creatures as royal. Even the Sphinx, that half-lion, half-human enigma, may originally have been a serpent-headed monument. The earliest sketches hint at a head far more elongated than today's eroded visage. A serpent body half-buried, a human mask later imposed. The serpent suppressed but not erased. The Mesoamerican codices across the Atlantic, the pattern explodes with color. The Maya, Aztec, and Toltec civilizations all worship the feathered serpent. Quetzalcoatl to the Aztecs, Kukulkan to the Maya, Gukumats to the Quiche. Unlike dragons of Europe, these beings were not monsters to be slain. They were teacher gods, descending from the heavens to impart calendars, mathematics, astronomy, and moral codes. They ruled as kings, then departed with promises of return. Quetzalcoatl's imagery, serpent body, plumed wings, describes a being both reptile and avian. But his temples are not just myths. They are astronomical machines aligned with solstices and star systems. Why would a myth require such precision? And why did his worship persist even under Spanish conquest when everything else was burned? Mayan stelae show beings in elaborate headdresses shaped like serpent maws. Priests wearing lizard-like skins. Blood rituals to maintain contact with the gods. Again, the serpent as both conduit and crown. Some Mesoamerican texts even mention the sky people who arrived in serpent ships glowing with fire. Mainstream scholars dismiss this as poetic description of comets or storms. But what if these were literal sightings of vessels, craft shaped like serpents descending from above? The triad of testimony Sumerian tablets, Egyptian hieroglyphs, Mesoamerican codices. 3 civilizations, 3 continents, 1 archetype. The serpent as bringer of knowledge, as ruler of men, as sky being descending to earth. The same motifs recur: hybridization, gods mixing their essence with humans. Serpentine regalia, crowns, headdresses, staffs. Underground domains, nagas, underworld serpents, hidden chambers. Return prophecies, they will come back. Why? The simplest explanation is symbolic convergence. Humans everywhere feared snakes and revered them as powerful. But symbols do not explain precision. They do not explain bloodline obsession, repeating genealogies, or the global recurrence of sky serpents imparting advanced knowledge to Stone Age cultures. Either humanity shared a global Jungian archetype, or we shared an encounter. In the 20th century, scholars like Zecharia Sitchin reinterpreted these texts as evidence of extraterrestrial involvement. Critics call it pseudoscience. But critics rarely explain the consistency of these myths, or why elite institutions still quietly revere serpentine symbols. Look at the insignias of powerful families, secret societies, and modern corporations. The serpent has not gone away. It has gone corporate. It sits coiled in the logos of pharmaceutical giants, medical associations, global organizations. It slithers through currency designs, monuments, and think tank seals. The serpent gods of Sumer, Egypt, and Mesoamerica may no longer walk openly, but their imagery still crowns our world. And perhaps more than imagery remains. In the next chapter, we will explore the Covenant of Cold Blood, the alleged pact between the first hybrid kings and their skyborn patrons. If the serpent gods gave humanity civilization, what did they demand in return? Because the serpent always extracts a price. Chapter 3, The Seed of Enki. Was genetic manipulation part of humanity's creation story? Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Genesis 1:26. Man shall be named Lu, the mixed one, the one who has been mixed. Sumerian tablet, Enki and Ninmah. Until now, we've walked among symbols, serpents carved in stone, sky kings in myth, feathered deities promising return. But at the heart of the oldest stories lies something more intimate and far more dangerous. A claim not about gods ruling humanity, but about gods designing it. This is where the serpent stops being a crown and becomes a scalpel. The workshop of the gods. The Sumerian tablets known as the Enuma Elish, the Atrahasis epic, and the Enki and Ninmah texts describe a scenario that does not sound like creation in the poetic Genesis sense. It sounds like biological engineering. In these stories, the great gods labor under heavy work mining and cultivating the earth. Dissatisfied, they rebel. The Council of Anunnaki, those who from the heavens came, meets to resolve the crisis. The decision: create a new race to serve them. The task of creation falls to Enki, the water serpent god of wisdom and technology, and to Ninmah, the mother goddess. The text does not describe clay sculpting in the artistic sense. It describes mixing, combining the essence of the gods with that of the beings of the earth. The result: Lu, the mixed one. This word mixed is critical. It suggests not a spontaneous creation, but a hybridization. Why would ancient people record such a process? Why call their first ancestors the mixed ones? Why show Enki holding a two-serpent staff, the same symbol that now represents Western medicine and the double helix of DNA? The Sumerians were not geneticists. Yet they recorded their origin story in terms eerily parallel to gene splicing. Echoes in Genesis compare this to the Genesis creation story. Let us make man in our image, not my image, our. A plural. A council. Elohim, not El. Even the serpent's role in Eden, offering knowledge forbidden by the God who made humans ignorant, resembles a rebel scientist correcting his experiment. Could Enki, the serpent god of Sumer, be the archetype for the biblical serpent? A being who gave humans the capacity for self-awareness and reproduction beyond what was intended. The mainstream explanation is that these are just myths, proto-science born from agricultural metaphors. But the tablets are not vague. They detail the process of creating workers, the failures. The creature could not hold the tool. The creature could not reproduce. And the eventual success, a hybrid able to labor and procreate. That is not how poetry reads. That is how lab notes read. The genetic memory of humanity. Look at our own genome. Modern science confirms that humans have foreign DNA segments whose origins remain mysterious. We know Neanderthals contributed. We know Denisovans contributed. But there are also ghost lineages, unknown ancestors. Entire chunks of our code appear inserted, not evolved. They are not mutations, they are additions. Mainstream science calls this introgression from archaic hominins. But what if those hominins weren't entirely terrestrial? In myth after myth, the gods are not omnipotent. They are fallible engineers. They breed, they fail, they try again. They teach humanity only what serves them. And then they withdraw, leaving priesthoods and kings to carry the bloodline forward. The serpent's DNA signature. Why does Enki's emblem look like a double helix? Why do the Nagas of India, serpent beings living underground, guard manuscripts said to contain the codes of life? Why do Mayan depictions of Quetzalcoatl show him holding spiraled staffs or crossing serpents, symbols of intertwined strands? Serpents have long been symbols of regeneration, shedding skin, renewal. But in the context of the Anunnaki and Enki, the symbol aligns uncannily with DNA's shape. Two serpents winding around a central axis. Knowledge forbidden to primitive humans. Yet present, carved, and transmitted. Even the very word serpent in Hebrew, nashash, also means to shine or to divine, a bringer of hidden knowledge. Not a tempter, but an awakener. Hybrid bloodlines as political power. The Sumerian Kings List, one of the earliest historical records, claims that before the flood, kingship descended from heaven and was held by rulers who lived for thousands of years. After the flood, lifespans shortened, but the kingship still came from heaven. Could this describe the dilution of the hybrid bloodline?
Look at today's royal and elite families.
The obsession with bloodline purity. The intermarriages across continents. The survival of dynasties even when empires collapse. Is this just tradition, or the maintenance of a genetic heritage begun in Sumer? Why does the British royal crest feature a unicorn and a lion, mythic and predatory creatures? Why does the Pope's staff carry a serpentine crook? Why do secret societies trace their symbols to serpents and dragons? Because symbolism preserves memory. Memory preserves power. And power preserves blood. The ethical divide. If humanity was designed as a servant race, what does that say about free will? If the serpent god Enki rebelled by giving us awareness, does that make him a liberator or a manipulator? Was the original sin of Genesis actually the first act of self-determination? These questions are not just theological. They cut to the heart of what it means to be human. Are we naturally empathetic beings corrupted by reptilian systems? Or are we engineered hybrids struggling to recover our mammalian essence? It would explain much. Our divided nature, our self-destructive tendencies, our tendency to build hierarchies and worship those who rule us. It would explain why empathy feels innate but power feels predatory. Two lineages wrestling inside one body. The silent evidence: there is no single smoking gun, but there is an overwhelming chorus of whispers. Tablets describing genetic mixing. Symbols of serpents entwined like DNA. Unknown insertions in our genome. Elite obsession with bloodlines. Global recurrence of serpent knowledge myths. Individually, each is explainable. Together they form a pattern of design, a pattern that implies a designer. If this theory is even partially true, then the seed of Enki is not just myth. It is us. We are the mixed ones. We are the experiment. And those who claim power over us do so not just by ideology, but by inheritance. The chapter ahead. In Chapter 4, The Garden of Interference, we will examine the next step in this narrative. The suppression of our potential. If Enki's seed gave humanity self-awareness, who clipped our wings? Who programmed us for obedience? And why? Because a hybrid with self-awareness is dangerous. And the cold-blooded have always feared what they cannot fully control.